There are so many options to choose from when purchasing a suit, especially if you're creating or designing your own custom suit. So in today's video, I want to discuss a few different fabrics that I see most often, and hopefully this can help you when you're making your next decision. So the three different patterns that I want to discuss in today's video are number 1, pinstripes, number 2, plaids, and number 3, solids. Now I know solid isn't exactly a pattern, but there are quite a few different variations of solid fabrics, and I think it would be extremely beneficial for anyone out there looking to purchase their next suit. Now, before we dive into the different types of stripes, I want to personally talk about why I love a good pinstripe suit and why it's imperative for me to keep at least 1 to 2 in my suit rotation. Pinstripe suits give off a classic, elegant, and professional look, which I think is crucial depending on the environment you're stepping into. Take me, for example. Outside of running my business and managing a physical store, I often get booked for speaking engagements and panel discussions. In those settings, it's not just about knowing your stuff, it's about looking like you know your stuff. And the right pinstripe suit helps you bridge that gap perfectly. Another reason I love pinstripes is because of how flattering the lines can be. They do an amazing job of elongating the body, making you look taller and slimmer, which of course is just an added bonus for just about anyone. Lastly, one of the things that keeps me coming back to pinstripes time and time again is the variety. There are so many different variations and stripe widths to choose from, which as a result really allows you to play with the level of formality along with the color of the suit, of course. A wider stripe, for example, can make the suit feel a little less serious while giving you that sharp, classic effect. Now, let's get into the different variations of stripes that you can choose from. Now, I know we still have to get to a few other patterns in this video, but there are just 4 types of stripes that I'm going to discuss today. There are many more than just 4, but there are 4 that I most commonly see. Number 1 is going to be what I call your classic pinstripe. Number 2, chalk stripe. Number 3, rope stripe. And number 4, the beaded pinstripe. So let's get started with the beaded pinstripe suit, which is exactly what I have on today. A beaded pinstripe is essentially a series of tiny spaced out dots or beads that make their way along a fabric. Another thing I really love about the beaded pinstripe suit is the fact that those tiny small dots really allow the fabric to look a little bit more pronounced, especially as you can see what I'm wearing today with a charcoal gray suit. It really shows up a lot better, especially on darker colors. Next up, let's talk about chalk stripe. Now, chalk stripe is going to be a much more broad and prominent stripe, and this is typically something that you'll see a lot on fall, winter flannel fabrics. Now, of course, this is definitely something that you can and will see on more of a 4-season year-round fabric, but most often you'll see it on some type of a flannel. And of course, it gets its name because it looks like it was drawn on with a piece of chalk, specifically tailor's chalk. I think chalk stripe, again, is a great option for any gentleman that wants something a little bit more broad and prominent, and specifically looks great on flannel and in a double-breasted version. Next up, let's talk about the rope stripe, which of course gets its name because it looks like a rope. Now, what I found over the years is that a lot of gentlemen that gravitate towards rope stripe are typically guys that want to make a statement, but also a lot of gentlemen who have jobs and are in lines of work where they're on stage or in front of a lot of people. Rope stripe is going to be your most prominent stripe. It's going to show up very well. It's going to be something that you can see from a distance and once again really makes a statement. So in essence, if you're not really looking to be too subtle, then I would go with rope stripe because it's completely on the opposite end of the spectrum and once again is a really prominent statement piece. And then finally, you have your classic pinstripe. This is for the gentleman, I'd say, who wants something timeless, elegant, and gets the job done. An analogy I like to use is in boxing, this is what we would consider your consistent jab. It's not going to be a haymaker. It's not going to be as prominent as a rope or a chalk stripe, but again, it's a timeless classic look that I think complements just about any gentleman. Next up, let's talk about plaids. Now, similar to stripes, there are many different variations to choose from, such as Glen check, Glen plaid, Prince of Wales, houndstooth, window pane, black watch, tartan plaid, the list goes on. But I'm just gonna focus on a few for today's video. And speaking of black watch and tartan plaid, I'm actually gonna save those for a separate video later on because black watch and tartan plaid are typically going to be more seasonal and something that you would only wear towards the end of the year around Christmas or holiday season. Now, starting with the window pane. Window pane is something that I've discussed in a previous video, but it's probably going to be the easiest fabric to remember because it's essentially just a solid fabric with a bunch of squares on it. Now, similar to that of a chalk stripe, I personally think that window panes look best on flannel fabrics, but again, this is something that's going to look fantastic no matter the fabric. Window panes, similar to some of the stripes we just discussed, can be very much a statement piece, and unless that's the look you're going for, I recommend a lot of gentlemen go with more of a subtle window pane, or it looks fantastic if you're doing it in a separate as well. So all in all, just keep in mind, window pane is definitely going to make a statement. If that's something that you're looking to do, go for it. But if not, I recommend going for more of a subtle window pane fabric that could be worn in a full suit or worn as a suit separate. Next up, let's discuss Glen check versus Glen plaid. Now, these two terms are used interchangeably, but there is a very small difference. Glen plaid is going to be a Glen check with a window pane on top of it. Most often you'll see a Glen check in a black and white or gray and white variation. And in this case, when discussing Glen plaid, you'll see once again a window pane on top of it, typically in another color. So you'll usually see it in a blue, red, green, yellow, but that is the difference between Glen check and Glen plaid. Now, getting into Glen check, otherwise known as Prince of Wales, the main difference being Prince of Wales oftentimes is a skinnier, smaller version of Glen check. At least that's what it's become over time. But with Glen check, this is one of my favorite patterns. I love Glen check. I think it looks amazing in linen, in a flannel, in a 4-season variation. Glen check is a wonderful fabric and again is a personal favorite of mine. Now, when it comes to Glen check, most of the time you'll see this in a separate variation. So for example, you'll see a Glen check jacket with an odd color pair of trousers. Now, the great thing about Prince of Wales, Glen check, and Glen plaid is that all of them look amazing in either a full suit or a suit separate. Me, for example, I oftentimes wear my Glen check jacket with an odd color pair of trousers, and this is something that I love. It's a really easy go-to outfit, and the Glen check jacket is usually going to be something that catches a lot of attention without being over the top. But all in all, this obviously depends on how prominent that pattern is, as it does come in different variations, different colors. Most often though, you'll see it in black and white or some type of a gray and white variation. Last but not least, let's talk about solids. And if you're anything like me, I do a lot of color blocking. So I wear a lot of solid color jackets, solid color trousers, whether I'm doing a full suit or a suit separate. But there are different types of solids. Now, what a lot of these amazing mills do whenever they're making some of these fabrics, just like we learned in school, yellow and blue make green, a similar process is done when fabrics are being dyed. So a lot of the times what you'll see is you'll see a solid color with other colors kind of mixed in. And the reason I bring this up is because this is a great way to have a solid color while still kind of incorporating other colors into it to give it a little bit more of a uniqueness. This is something you oftentimes see on blends such as wool silk linen blends, which are some of my personal favorites. And again, this is just a great way to still have a solid color while having a bit of oftentimes what's seen as a casual undertone. Which leads me into my next point when it comes to solid fabrics, which is what we call wet versus dry fabrics. Now, I could do a whole nother video on this just by itself, but essentially when it comes to wet fabrics, what you want to remember is that wet fabrics are going to have a sheen to them. Typically, wet fabrics are great for more formal fabrics or more formal events. So for example, if you are getting married and you want to wear a tuxedo, most of the times I typically push my clients towards doing more of a wet fabric. That wet fabric, again, gives more of a formality. I think this looks great on photos, as again, that sheen really shows up well from a distance and on camera. Versus a dry fabric, which you'll see a lot with, let's say, like a mohair or something along those lines. Dry fabrics are going to be typically more synonymous with casual fabrics. Now, dry fabrics can certainly be worn in formal occasions. They look just as good on tuxedos, but if you're going for more of a traditional look, I would go with a wet fabric. And if you want more of a casual look, I would say go with a dry fabric. Now, solid colors are my personal go-to, but keeping in mind, maybe looking for a solid with a little bit of a white underthreading, or maybe looking into doing a wet versus a dry fabric, depending on how you want the outfit to look or come across. It's just something to keep in mind when selecting your next suit. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and thank you all for 1,000 subscribers. On to the next milestone. Please let me know if you have any questions down below. Let me know your thoughts. And if you want to visit us, see our address. We are located in the heart of West Midtown here in Atlanta, Georgia. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video. And as always, I will see you next time. Bye.